Now to carry on is a crime. President Trump, do you have the power to do it? If you will summon Netanyahu and say to him, enough is enough, it's all over with. This is what Trump can do. He is the president, he has the power, and the total dependence of Netanyahu on him give him that kind of power.
There is some small sliver of hope for a ceasefire in the Middle East today. But beyond that, the crisis in Gaza keeps getting worse. The official Palestinian death toll surpassed 62,000 people on Monday. Deaths from malnutrition are growing. More than 100 children have died from starvation and its effects over the course of the conflict. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu remains committed to a new military offensive targeting some of the most densely populated areas in Gaza. His strategy sparked one of the biggest single Israeli protests against the war on Sunday, as hundreds of thousands of people took to the streets. Among their worries that Netanyahu's strategy could doom the Israeli hostages who remain in Gaza. To discuss all of this, I'm joined today by a special and important voice. Ehud Olmert is a former Prime Minister of Israel. He was the 12th person to serve in that position, leading his nation from 2006 to 2009. More recently, he has been a vigorous critic of the way Israel is conducting its operations in Gaza, and a critic of his old political rival, Mr. Netanyahu. Mr. Olmert, thanks for joining us. In May, you wrote a column that got a lot of attention for the Israeli newspaper Haaretz. In it, you accused the Netanyahu government of committing war crimes. And you wrote that, quote, what we are doing in Gaza now is a war of devastation, indiscriminate, limitless, cruel and criminal killing of civilians. Where are we now? It looks like things could be getting even worse if this new offensive goes ahead.
Just a small correction, if I may. I didn't write it. There is an indiscriminate killing of people. I accuse the Israeli government from being responsible for crimes which were completely unnecessary and which took place in Gaza as a result of what many Israelis think is an unnecessary war that shouldn't have been expended as the Prime Minister wanted it. And this is the situation right now. Prime Minister wants to conquer Gaza completely, which will practically mean the deportation of hundreds of thousands of people from where they live, the killing of lots of Israeli soldiers as part of it, the loss of the hostages, and also the killing of many non-involved Palestinians living in this densely populated area, which is embedded with so many of the Hamas guys. The common wisdom in Israel, shared by most of the commanders of the Israeli army in the past, the senior generals, the warriors of Israel, and the heads of Mossad and the security services, all signed a petition saying to the Prime Minister, there is not an objective which is worth the cost of what you want to do, so you have to refrain from doing it. And this is the core and the main basis for the protest, which has been shared by hundreds of thousands of people in the streets of Tel Aviv and Jerusalem and other parts of the country in the last few days.
And do you think that those protests have any chance of having an impact on Netanyahu, or is he just going to forge ahead regardless?
I think there is an impact. There is no question about it, and this impact will grow. And I think that the riots and the demonstrations will grow and will continue as they were taking place now for almost 2.5 years, even a lot before the war in October started, because of the changes in the legal system which Netanyahu wanted to make at the time. So I think it's moving forward. Whether it will be sufficient in order to bring down the government, I don't know, but I think that it comes very close to it. So this is a serious matter. Just imagine, by way of comparison, that the proportion of 500,000 Israelis in the streets to the population, just compare it to the United States, and you talk about demonstration of 10 million people, right? Or more. This is very significant. And it can't last without a serious impact.
If it does not stop him from going ahead, in other words, if this operation targeting Gaza City and what he calls the central camps goes ahead, I mean, you mentioned some of the costs, but how big of a disaster do you think that'll be?
Well, again, as I said, we can do what we can do in a democratic system. And I think that the chief of staff of the Israeli army, present chief of staff, the one that was appointed only half a year ago by this present government, and at the time that he was appointed, he was hailed by Netanyahu and his Secretary of Defense as a great general. He said that this what the Prime Minister wants, this now attack on Gaza, is like a death trap for the Israeli soldiers and the Israeli hostages. So the question is whether the army will, in practice, try to do what originally the Prime Minister thought the army has to do, or the army will follow orders of the general staff and the chief of staff of the Israeli army, which may not necessarily be completely congruent with the original purpose of what Netanyahu had in mind. So it remains to be seen how these things will develop. But it's not a simple matter.
Right. And in relation to the death trap, I mean, you yourself mentioned at the start that many Palestinian civilians unconnected with Hamas will also be caught in that. Which brings me to the bigger picture. I mean, you have mentioned in previous instances how you were initially defensive of Israel's actions since October 7th, but over time you became, I think, persuaded that the actions that it was carrying out were not justifiable. Just summarise what exactly brought you over that threshold, or how the evidence became overwhelming in your view.
We should put things in the right perspective. I still think that the original war and attack was absolutely justified. There's no question about it. It was supported by the international community from everywhere. President Biden, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak at the time, President Macron, the Chancellor Scholz, the Prime Minister Meloni, everyone, Justin Trudeau in Canada, everyone supported for good reasons. There was a terrible event that took place, perpetrated by Hamas, killing brutally in the most terrible manner civilians in their home living rooms, in the bedrooms, with their pajamas, not soldiers or military people. So there was a counteroffensive which was inevitable and which definitely involved a collateral damage, which was very painful and very difficult to bear. I can understand, but it was in a way inevitable because there was no other way to reach out for the Hamas killers in where they were hiding without crossing through the civilian population where they were hiding, be underground, on ground, in private homes, in mosques, in hospitals, everywhere. The point is that after 22 months, the picture today is not what it was 22 months ago. 22 months ago, the attack was inevitable. To keep it going now, when 70% of the Gaza buildings are completely destroyed, when tens of thousands of people are already killed, and there is not any tangible, clear-cut objective that can be reached without any vision about the day after, that the Prime Minister refuses consistently to spell out, now to carry on these military operations is totally unacceptable, unbearable, and unforgivable. So what I say is that I don't change my mind about the beginning of what happened because it was, as I said, inevitable and unavoidable. What I say is that to take it through today under the present circumstances, after 22 months of fighting and killing and destroying and achieving important military objectives, which were important in order to destroy the terrorist organizations, is unacceptable, and it has to stop right away. It has to stop a while ago, and I kept talking about it a year ago already, that we have reached the point where it shouldn't have continued, but certainly now. So now to carry on is a crime.
And if it is a crime to carry on, if it is unacceptable to carry it on, shouldn't President Trump and the American administration be putting more pressure on Netanyahu to stop, essentially?
If I could, draw the president's attention while I speak now from Zelensky and Putin for just a half an hour and share with him my concern and my expectations, I would have said to him, President Trump, I hope that you can make peace between Russia and Ukraine. It's very important also. People are killed there for no good reason. But you have a much greater influence and power of persuasion in forcing the Israeli Prime Minister to end the war now. And you can do it. And if you will do it, it will work. And if you will do it and it will work, you will deserve all the rewards that you are looking for, and we will all be very happy to recommend you to get these rewards. But you have the power to do it. If you will summon Netanyahu and say to him, enough is enough, it's all over with, you don't have to carry on. You can bring back all the hostages if you stop the war now, and then there will be an interim security force made of Palestinians, of moderate Arab country soldiers, of the Emirates, of the Saudis, that will take over Gaza and will make sure that Hamas is not reviving again. And then there will be an administration built with commissioners that will be linked to the Palestinian Authority, that will become the leadership, the administration of the Gaza, in order to try and rebuild it. Israel could pull out completely back into the international line that was before the 7th of October. And all this, one person can do. And this is not any of the Europeans, and this is not any of the others. This is what Trump can do. He is the president, he has the power, and the total dependence of Netanyahu on him give him that kind of power. So yes, I'd love him to do it. I'd support him for doing it. And millions of Israelis will applaud him and will be grateful to him if he will do it.
And one final question briefly, Mr. Olmert. If that doesn't happen, if Trump doesn't make that effort, if this continues, how dangerous is this for Israel? In this country, we hear oftentimes that people, who are criticizing the Netanyahu government are anti-Israel. But there's obviously an argument that you and others have made that the current actions are in fact very damaging for Israel in the eyes of the world, right?
Absolutely. Look, and many Israelis, including the government spokesman and the senior minister and the prime minister, fell in love with the need to keep saying all the time, everyone is an anti-Semite, all those that criticize Israel are anti-Semites. There are many anti-Semites, unfortunately, many. And in some places, the expressions of anti-Semitism were obvious and heartbreaking and dangerous. But there are many, many, many who are against this government of Israel, not because they are anti-Semite, just because they think that this government is reckless, irresponsible, and totally unacceptable, just as we think in Israel, so many of us. And we are not anti-Semites. So I think that there is a danger that Israel is losing the status, the respect that we entertained for a very long time by many countries that respected the achievements of Israel, the Academy of Israel, the contribution of Israel to technologies across the world, to art, to culture, to literature, and to the cooperation with other democracies across the world. All this is on the verge of collapse because of the lack of responsibility and lack of integrity which characterize this government. And definitely, this is another good argument why, before Israel becomes like a pariah in the international community, we will stop it. And anything that the President of the United States, and I emphasize him personally because he has this power, will do to stop it rather than to encourage Netanyahu to carry on with all these pompous, reckless, empty slogans of destroying every one of Hamas. We will not destroy every one of Hamas, but we may destroy the integrity and the soul of what Israel was all about.
Ehud Olmert, former Prime Minister of Israel, thanks for joining us on the show today.
Thank you.